Hello, hello, hello! How are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? Is everybody nice and comfy? Get ready for some World War III action. I see we've got about 400, 500 people watching, so thank you all for tuning in, and please remember to hit the like button. It helps grow the channel. And I also see the Crazy Puppet is back. It's good to see you, Crazy Puppet. He's been spamming the chat with donations. I appreciate that. So obviously we're going to talk about the tank issue. I have some other topics to delve through with you guys, but we're going to deal with this Germany and US tank issue first, because I mean, before I start though, tell me where you guys are tuning in from. I forgot to ask you, where are you watching? What city, what state, what country, what planet, what town, what village are you watching from? Please let me know in the comments. Go ahead, sound off. And I'm going to get this ready for you, okay? Okay. I see in the comments. Look at it. It's exploding. We've got Armenia, Chicago, Michigan, Ohio, Fort Worth, Texas, Romania, Puerto Rico, French Canada, Los Angeles, Alabama, Hamburg, San Francisco, Sri Lanka, Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, New Zealand, Pakistan, Ireland, Australia. Wonderful, wonderful. This is amazing. Thank you guys very much. It just keeps going. Eritrea, Kaliningrad, New Jersey, Compton in California. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Crazy Puppet. I appreciate the comments. And the Crazy Puppet says tuning in from under my bed. I sure hope you're not. Okay, let's go, guys. Come on, let's go. So it's official. It's official. The Germans and the Americans have decided that it would be a good idea to send Ukraine tanks to fight the Russians. Yes. Yeah, you've heard that correctly. So we've gone from Germany is committing genocide across Europe and needs to be neutered and demilitarized and sliced up into 4 or 5 pieces, to, you know what? Why don't you increase your military budget to something that's bigger than the Russians, and then also send German tanks against the Russians? Because that worked out really well last time, right? That worked out very well the last time you did that. Well, here we are. This is apparently the Western position now, is to arm Germany and let Germany arm others. And who against who? A nuclear powered Russia. So here's what happened. This story was broken by Spiegel, which is a German paper. I'm going to pull this up on the screen for you. Here's the original. Right? Deutschland schickt Leopard Panzer in die Ukraine. So Germany is sending the Leopard tanks to Ukraine. So we're talking about Leopard 2. Okay, this is their main battle tank, and the decision was taken by the Chancellor Olaf Scholz. And you know, they've been going at this for a couple of days. I'm sure they've been doing it for weeks and months. But there was this kind of standoff between the Germans and Americans. You know, where Scholz was saying, you know, if we send the Ukrainians tanks, we'll only do it if you guys, the Americans, also send them tanks. So I'll get to what the Americans did in a second, but let me just show you what they're saying in this article. Okay, so several European countries also own their own Leopard tanks. So these are obviously, they're bought from Germany. And Poland is also going to be sending some of its tanks. Okay, so whenever a country exports weapons to another country, they're you know, the license is very, very restricted. So if you buy, for example, Leopard tanks from Germany, that doesn't mean you can go and hand them out as you please. You need to get permission from Germany to give that tank to somebody else to export the tank. So that's what Poland did. They submitted an official request to send some of their own German tanks to Ukraine, and that request has been approved. So Germany will send some of its own tanks, 14 Leopard 2s, from its own army stockpiles, and Poland is also going to send Leopard 2s to Ukraine. Okay, so let me show you some of these German politicians. I mean, it's really hilarious, right? The warmongering. So Katrin Göring-Eckardt, what a lovely name, how suitable, right? Göring. She said the Leopard's freed, right? So she's saying that finally, and hopefully the tank can be quickly delivered to the Ukrainians. Here we have Strack-Zimmermann, who's saying that, you know, it was basically inevitable and it was a tough thing to get done, but they did it. And, you know, generally among all these politicians, I mean, the warmongering is insane. Like, just to explain this to you, I'll show you this poll in a second, right? Most people in the Green Party in Germany are actually in support of sending weapons to Ukraine and arming Ukraine. Apparently, that's a Green position, right? Just like let's reopen those nuclear facilities that we shut down and the power plants, and let's go back to coal. Apparently, these are also progressive positions now in Germany. I'll show you just very briefly. This is from ARD, okay, and they basically polled a bunch of voters. So let me give you the rundown, and then we'll go through each party, okay? So basically, 46% of Germans polled want to send tanks to Ukraine. 43% are against, okay, and 11% couldn't decide. They were undecided. So interestingly enough, you know, every other German living in the what used to be West Germany is in support of it. And if you look at East Germany, or what used to be East Germany, 59% are against sending the tanks. And when it comes to youth, okay, so the young people that were polled, 52% of 18 to 34-year-olds said that Germany should not send the tanks. So that was pretty interesting, because I was going to expect young people to be, you know, drinking that Kool-Aid, that NATO Kool-Aid. So that's interesting. And let's look at the older people who were polled. So they're saying that 65 plus year olds, only 36 are against it, right? And 52% said yes. And I mean, it's absolutely crazy, right? Like how when they say Union, so they're talking about CDU. This is Christian Democratic Union. So that was basically Angela Merkel's party. They're not in power anymore. Most of the people there are in support of it. The Greens, the same thing. You know, the Socialist Party, I mean, 49% said yes. So you could say it's very, very evenly split. And when it comes to liberals, I mean, 48% against. And this is absolutely hilarious here. You have far right, 84% against. Like I'm stunned by this. Like, actually the far right in Germany is against sending the tanks. Are you guys sure that wasn't what you were doing 70 years ago? I'm pretty sure you were doing something else. You were doing something very different. So let me show you these some of these speeches from the debates they've been having in the German parliament. Okay, I thought I picked out just some good moments. Listen to this guy. He delivers a very compelling argument.
Helme, dann ging es Panzerfäuste, tragbare Lenkwaffen, Munition, aber der Krieg ging weiter. Dann sollten es alle Artilleriegeschütze sein. Der Krieg, der Leid, die Zerstörung, das alles ging weiter. Und jetzt gab es die Debatten um den Gepard, dann um die Patriot-Systeme, dann um den Schützenpanzer Marder. Und, meine Damen und Herren, der Krieg tobt in aller Brutalität weiter. Und ganz unbeeindruckt davon fordern Sie, Herr Wadefuhl, heute, aber auch Frau Strack-Zimmermann, Herr Hofreiter, permanent schwerere Waffen, mehr Waffen, schnellere Lieferungen. Ihr Wettlauf um Waffenlieferungen hat uns den Frieden keinen Millimeter näher gebracht. Und Sie rennen mit diesen Scheuklappen immer weiter. Und wer blind durch die Gegend rennt, der muss aufpassen, dass er nicht gegen die Wand rennt, meine Damen und Herren. Jetzt sollen es die Leopard sein. Was hat der Bundeskanzler gesagt?
So again, he makes a very good point, and I sort of hinted at this a few days ago in the last live stream, right? Like, you know, last time they wanted to send German tanks to Ukraine. These were, you know, they were not Leopard tanks. They were not Leopard 1s or 2s. They were older and you know, not main battle tanks. and Scholz was saying, no, we shouldn't do that because of, you know, our Germany's legacy, you know, World War I, World War II. It's not, you know, we shouldn't be arming other countries, and that's sort of the position that Germany's held, you know, unless you count killing people in Yemen, which is what, you know, they've had no problem selling their arms to the Saudis to do that. But after a few days, Scholz, the chancellor, he suddenly flips, says, no, you know what? We're going to send them the tanks. And I had a feeling it's going to be the same thing now, right? So he pretends to resist in the beginning, and then a few days later, okay, let's just send them the damn tanks. But again, I think even more shocking is that you have all these people who are supposed to be, you know, on the left, and the Green Party, who are, you know, they're the most bloodthirsty. I mean, if you look at the foreign minister, the German foreign minister, Baerbock, Annalena Baerbock. I mean, you know, it's like Pepe Escobar said, she's barely fit enough to run a, you know, a bratwurst stand. I mean, she's no different from, you know, the official NATO position or the official neocon position. It's you know, it's disgusting. And I'll show you here. This is the Polish prime minister. He was speaking with BBC, and he's very happy sending these tanks.
Prime Minister, have you requested approval from Germany? Have they replied yet?
Yes, we have requested the approval from Germany to send Leopard tanks. We are now in the process of also building, let's call it a coalition of willing countries willing to support.
Jesus Christ. Oh my man, I almost puked. What did you say? What the fuck did you just say? Coalition of the willing. Coalition of the willing. You didn't think that that's maybe in bad taste after Iraq? Because that's what they called it in, you know, with Iraq. It was a coalition of the willing. Jesus Christ. Like, come up with a new phrase, man. Try to, like, make a tiny effort, you know?
Ukraine at this juncture in this very critical moment of time. This is a very serious matter because, as we remember, a couple of months ago, the Kremlin ordered conscript process to start, and now the soldiers are being trained with the aim to attack Ukraine yet again from 2 or 3 different directions, because the Belarusian direction of attack may not be excluded. This is why an urgent move here is so important, and this is why we talked to our German partners to not procrastinate, not to delay, but just to take brave decisions and join the coalition of countries who want to send modern tanks, Leopard tanks, to Ukraine.
So I told you the United States is also going to send tanks. So here's what's happening. Okay, this is from the Wall Street Journal. The U.S. is expected to send about 30 tanks, and we're talking, of course, about the Abrams tank, the M1A2. And basically, Biden had a call with Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor, on January 17th, so a couple of days ago, right? But it's only a few hours ago. Literally in the last 3 hours that you have the basically Pentagon reporters confirming that they're making preparations to send the M1 Abrams to Ukrainians. And by the way, I mentioned this last time, but I'm going to say it again. The UK, so desperate, you know, to be a good little NATO doggy, is sending 14 Challenger 2 tanks. Okay, so just to summarize, we have Poland, Germany, the US, and the UK all sending their main battle tanks to Ukraine to kill Russians, to fight the Russians. And you know, I guess this position that, well, the Abrams is too difficult to maintain, and it is difficult to maintain, and we're not going to deny that, right? It's a fuel guzzling beast. I guess, you know, that means they're going to have to give the Ukrainians more logistical support, because, you know, without fuel, those things are coffins. So I haven't heard anything about that, but that was their position, and now they appear to be okay with it. And again, I'll show you the Netherlands. So there's a senior German politician said that the Polish request will be approved and that the Netherlands have expressed interest in sending their own Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Okay, so maybe the Netherlands as well. Let me show you. Let me show you just very briefly. This is from CNN.
Critical news. CNN reporting now on a potential giant change in U.S. policy that could have dramatic consequences for the battlefield in Ukraine. Sources telling CNN the Biden administration is finalizing a deal to send American-made Abrams tanks to the battlefield. CNN's Oren Lieberman live at the Pentagon for us. Oren, this is a big shift. What's happening?
It is. For a long time, the U.S. and the Pentagon had said the Abrams tank was not the right fit for the fight, urging other countries to send their tanks. We're now learning, according to 3 U.S. officials familiar with the matter, that the Biden administration is now finalizing plans to announce the commitment of sending Abrams tanks to Ukraine. The U.S.-made M1 Abrams tank, an advanced but complex system that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been asking for months. Important for a number of reasons. First, the shift in U.S. policy. Second, this is a signal, another signal, I should say, of ongoing U.S. support for Ukraine in terms of the weapons and the systems it provides. But perhaps most importantly, it breaks an apparent logjam with Germany. German officials had repeatedly said they would not send or approve the sending of their own German-made Leopard tanks until the U.S. made a similar move. Although it had appeared last week German officials were kind of softening their stance a little bit on that one, it still remained out there. So this, if and when it's announced, and that announcement could come as soon as this week, would break that logjam, allowing not only Germany to send Leopard tanks, but also any of the more than dozen countries that operate Leopards, very much giving Ukraine a direct offensive threat on the battlefield as the war with Russia nears the 1-year mark. Also worth noting that the UK has committed to sending some of its own Challenger 2 tanks to Ukraine. So this is a big shift from the administration and certainly big news for Ukraine.
So there's speculation that you're going to have a spring offensive from both sides. Spring. Zelensky was asking for 300 tanks, and who knows how many he's going to get in the end. But I personally, I don't know if it's actually going to be 300, but it's already, it's very, very interesting that the U.S. kind of had to, meet Germany's condition in order to avoid being embarrassed. Get not just Germany, but again, Poland and other European countries to give over their tanks. And this changes the dynamic of the war because, before, I know when you look at the HIMARS systems, the missiles that the Americans gave Ukraine, right? They didn't give them the long range ones that can go up to 300 kilometers. They gave them short range so they can't strike within Russia. Okay. And that was in and of itself an escalation, right? But the thing with tanks is that, it's not something that is launched and then it flies in the air and blows up a second later and you don't see. It's very symbolic, right? To have these tanks, especially German tanks. I mean, American is already bad enough, but German tanks against the Russian, man. I'm really I'm perplexed by this. What do they think is going to happen? What do they think is going to happen? Because even if you can train the Ukrainian crews who are used to Soviet tanks to operate British tanks, and then you got to train them to operate German tanks, and then you got to train them to operate American tanks, and that's if they can even maintain the logistical supply line to work with these tanks to keep them running. What kind of door are you opening now for the Russians to do? I mean, this is very clearly escalation, and it's not going to, it's like this guy over here was saying, right? Bach, who's from Die Linke, which is the left. He was saying, you guys, every time you said, oh, we have to send helmets and it's going to help the Ukrainians, and then, oh, we have to send tanks and artillery, it's going to help the Ukrainians, and now you want to send them Leopard tanks and it's supposedly going to help the Ukrainians. It didn't really do anything, right? It didn't really achieve anything. The only things that did work, right, and he mentions them in his speech, like, for example, the grain deal, was diplomacy, right? He said it's 2-0 for diplomacy. 2 points for diplomacy, 0 for war. You haven't achieved anything by sending and arming Ukraine. The only things that did any good were, done through diplomatic channels. So he makes a very, very compelling argument. And the irony of this, while Germany and the U.S. are saying, yeah, we're going to give Ukraine tanks, the doomsday clock has been moved to 90 seconds to midnight. So this is basically, it's a measurement of how close we are to the end of the world, to the apocalypse, to annihilating the planet with nuclear weapons, right? And this is the closest it's ever been to midnight, okay? Midnight representing the end. 90 seconds. This is a few hours ago, right? So these scientists, the atomic scientists who run this every year, they cited the Ukraine war, climate change, and COVID put humanity at greater risk of annihilation.
The members of the Science and Security Board moved.
Here they are unveiling the
forward, largely, though not exclusively, because of the mounting dangers in the war in Ukraine.
I mean, it really speaks for itself. It looks like the goddamn Grim Reaper is hiding behind it.
It has ever been to midnight.
Like you, Rachel.
90 seconds to midnight. That's pretty close. That's too close, and that's what I've been telling you guys for a while. This is not gonna end well. And again, I will just remind you, in World War II, the Soviets, Russians, they inflicted 80%, 80, of all German casualties. And, on the Russian side, on the Soviet side, they lost about 27 million people, right? So I'm including prisoners of war, killed in action, and civilians. Total around 27 million. So when they have German tanks coming, towards them again, I suspect it leaves a pretty nasty taste in their mouth, and it's not a nice reminder. And I'll say one more thing. I'll say one more thing. One of the conditions for German reunification was that the Soviets would support this as long as NATO doesn't expand any further to the east. Okay. And I know there are people who like to say, well, this was never put in writing, and that's just it's a Kremlin talking point. No, it's not. It's in the British National Archives. I think, ironically, we're talking about Spiegel. Der Spiegel published last year minutes from the diplomatic meetings where they said, no, these are Western diplomats talking. Say we can't put Poland inside of NATO because it'll upset the Russians, and we can't do that. Given the 2+4 negotiation, right? So it's very clear. They know, okay, we can reunite Germany, but we can't put these these Eastern Bloc or Russian satellite states inside of NATO. And what do? They got Germany reunited, wonderful, and then they start expanding. Bush in 2008. Bush before that, and then I'm referring to Ukraine and Georgia in 2008 at the NATO summit. Again, another slap in the face. And just every couple of years, they start adding more and more people. And just for context, since the end of the Cold War, NATO has doubled its membership. Doubled. Okay, so, if you're the Russians, you're looking at this shit and you're saying, we've got a pretty crappy deal. These guys screwed us. The Russians went from being, in Berlin to having Germany in NATO, and then all of the Eastern Bloc in NATO, and you can just look at whose borders have changed. It's NATO that's moving closer towards Russia, and the Russians are the ones who've gotten a pretty crappy deal. I mean, I would be pretty pissed off if I were in their shoes. I would be very pissed off, because it's like you've taken them for a ride. You've taken them for a ride, and it's not just about the tanks as weapons of war. It's the symbolic and the historical context of having German tanks charging towards Russian lines. No, you can't do this. It's not going to end well. And it was already bad enough before, where they were basically supplying the Ukrainians anyway. But now these are German-made tanks. Very clear, very distinctive. Look at the bright side. At least somebody's making money, right? You got to replace those tanks. Somebody's got to build new ones, and they're making money. So, you know, it's not a bad deal for them. Not a bad deal at all. Wow. It's a pretty bad deal for us. You know, German industry can barely sustain itself right now. French industry, you know, British industry. Europe is like on the verge of collapse. And instead of helping their own people, you know, people who can't afford to pay the electricity bill, who can't afford to put food on the table, who, you know, have lost their jobs, all of this infrastructure that's crumbling, you know, the gas prices that are through the roof. Instead of helping people, they're like, no, you know what? We should like buy weapons and just fuck the, you know, just mess with the Russians. These are their priorities. These are their priorities. Green Party, you know, the so-called left. I don't mean Die Linke only in Germany. I mean just generally the so-called left in the West. You know, this is their idea of being progressive. It's like, yeah, let's just do what NATO says is good, and you know, bad Russia and good NATO. Okay, well done. Yeah, great job. Speaking of NATO, let me actually get to the next topic. I'm just going to say we've got 1,600 people watching, so thank you guys for tuning in. And please make sure you've hit the like button, because I only see 600 likes. So there's a whole bunch of you who need to press the thumbs up under the video. So let's move on to the next topic, which is also got to do with NATO, right? I'm sure some of you heard what happened in Turkey. Yeah? Sorry, what happened in Sweden with the Turkish embassy. Okay. So some Danish/Swedish guy decided to show up at the Turkish embassy in Sweden, and he burned a copy of the Holy Quran. Okay, and I mean, the political fallout from this it is quite extraordinary. Okay, so this is the edgelord who thought that this was, you know, something smart to do, and he's just casually burning it outside the embassy. And I think he has a history of doing this, right? And it's really interesting because the reaction from Turkey has been, oh, you guys want to join NATO? Well, screw you. So you guys remember that Sweden wanted to join NATO. They broke with their you know, decades-long neutral stance. That's very fashionable these days, right? You know, Germany's doing it. Sweden is doing it. You know, and Finland. And so Turkey was one of the only countries, I think, along with Hungary, that was saying, we're not going to let you in, because you need to have consensus, right? You need all the members in NATO to say, okay, you can join. And their bid has kind of been in limbo, because Turkey wanted to, you know, extract several concessions. They said, okay, well, if you want us to support your NATO membership, you need to start extraditing these PKK members, which is Kurdish Workers' Party, that you have in Scandinavia. You need to extradite them here. And they even did some constitutional amendments to comply with that. The Turks told them, you need to lift the arms embargo that you have on us. They also worked towards that. And, you know, it was very clear that they really want to join NATO in Sweden. And they were doing everything they could to appease the Turks. And then this moron comes in front of the Turkish embassy and burns the Quran. And the response, I mean, the response is, let's just say it's tactless, to put it mildly. Okay, so I'll show you first of all what Erdogan said. So the Turkish president, right? So Erdogan has warned Sweden that it should not expect his backing to join NATO following the burning of the Quran outside Ankara's embassy in Stockholm during a protest. Quote, those who allow such blasphemy in front of our embassy can no longer expect our support for their NATO membership. Turkey and Hungary, as I mentioned earlier, they're the only NATO members who have not ratified the Nordic neighbors' historic decision to break their tradition of military non-alignment in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Hungarian Prime Minister Orban has promised that his parliament would approve the 2 bids next month. Again, even if they did, you still need Turkey, right? Let me show you the response from Sweden, okay? Actually, hold on. I think I might have this in a translated version. Let's take a
It's
look.
only until where the rights and freedoms of others starts. And according to that, no other individual can humiliate, look down on the sacred or holy values of others and other beliefs, and they do not have the freedom for that.
So that's Erdogan. Let me show you the Swedish Prime Minister. This is his office on Twitter. They said, quote, freedom of expression is a fundamental part of democracy, but what is legal is not necessarily appropriate. Burning books that are holy to many is a deeply disrespectful act. I want to express my sympathy for all Muslims who are offended by what has happened in Stockholm today. I mean, look, man, I understand that in their point of view, this is freedom of expression, and you know, you're in Sweden, you can do whatever you like. But you have to remember that if you're trying to get Turkey support, you maybe wait until after you've gotten it. I mean, this is just dumb from you know, a diplomatic level. It's just dumb because they are doing everything else. As I mentioned, we went through the list. They're doing everything to appease Turkey, and then, you know, because of one idiot, they let this go to waste. And I was actually wondering, are they going to start calling this guy like a Russian asset? Like, it's Russia sent this guy to burn the Quran so that he can foil their plan to join NATO. Let me show you Ned Price from the State Department. Look what he had to say.
The fact of the matter is, this was, as I understand it, a private individual, a provocateur, someone who may have deliberately sought to put distance between two close partners of ours, Turkey and Sweden, who may have deliberately sought to have an impact on the ongoing discussion regarding the accession of Sweden and Finland to NATO. We are cognizant, though, that within democracies, there's freedom of association, there's freedom of expression within that freedom that gives people the right to undertake actions that may be disrespectful, they may be repugnant, that may be disgusting.
Yeah, again, Sweden, you know, I'm going to say Europe is not the United States. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Sweden, you have laws against hate crime. Okay, so if you went and burned, for example, a gay pride flag, they would say that's homophobia, and you might get convicted of hate crime in court. And you guys know all too well that if you just criticize Israel, right, which is nothing to do even with someone's religion, it's a strictly political ideology, you know, you get branded an anti-Semite, right? And you've had many people who've lost their jobs, who've gotten into legal trouble because they did nothing but support Palestine and criticize Israel, right? So I'm confused here because I understand, you know, when it suits them, they say, okay, that's a hate crime. But then when it suits them, they say, oh, well, that's freedom of expression. Okay, fine, but you're going to upset a lot of people, you know, Muslim or otherwise. And I mean, I'm just confused why this guy burnt the book, because how the hell did he even read it? You guys need to understand something. Even for someone who is a fluent native speaker in Arabic, the Quran is like, you know, it's the quintessential form of the Arabic language. So you need to have an excellent, like, unbelievable command of Arabic to actually read it and understand it in Arabic. So never mind a translated version, which can't really, you know, it can't meet the standard of the poetry and the grammar that exists in the Quran. So just from a linguistic point of view, I'm confused. Did this guy even read the book? Does he even speak Arabic? How are you burning something you don't even understand? Not to mention that, of course, you're going to be angering a lot of people. And look, I'm going to show you here, for example, this is the Saudi Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They came out, put out a statement condemning and denouncing the Swedish authorities allowing an extremist to burn a copy of the Holy Quran in front of the Turkish embassy in Stockholm. Okay, so that's Saudi Arabia. And then you have also Kuwait. So they also put out a statement from their foreign ministry condemning this. The guy, by the way, the guy who burnt it, okay, his name is Rasmus Paludan, okay? And he's head of I mean, as the name implies, it's a hardline right-wing party, right? So he has both Danish and Swedish citizenship. And like I said, so you have multiple countries that, you know, that are coming out and condemning this. The United Nations as well. The High Representative of the UN Alliance of Civilizations also condemned it. And, you know, again, you have to put these two things together. It's not just about religion. It's also about the host country has a duty to protect the embassy, the foreign mission. Now, fine, you know, there's nothing wrong with protesting outside an embassy. People do that all the time in you know, all countries around the world against other countries everywhere. There's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. But this, I mean, like, what did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to happen? I'm just astounded by this kind of ignorance. You know, do you even understand what you're burning? You know, man, I'll tell you something. In Syria, Christians are a minority, okay? 10%, right? So Syrian Christians are a minority. I have never been discriminated against by a Muslim. I've never even heard of Muslims burning a Bible, because you don't behave like that when you're civilized. You know, it just makes no sense that you would go and upset people like that on purpose, unless that's your goal. You just want to provoke people. You know, again, I feel like there's also a double standard, like I was saying before, in terms of freedom of expression. Because if you try to criticize Israel, you know, which is, again, it's nothing to do with Judaism. They've hijacked it, and they pretend to represent Jews everywhere, even though it's a European political ideology. You know, you can get in trouble legally, socially. You could lose your position as a professor, your job, your income, and you're doing something that is truly within the bounds of freedom of expression inside of Europe, and you know, I would argue in the U.S. So then, because Sweden is in Europe, so let's focus on Europe. When you come and do something like that, they're like, "Oh no, you better stop. This is freedom of expression. Shut the fuck up." Why the double standards? That's what I want to know. Why the double standards? You know, if you want to toe that line, then at least be consistent, right? Here, I'll show you also. This is outside the Swedish embassy in Iraq. So you have, like I said, people are protesting. They're angry everywhere. It's not just like, you know, Saudi and Kuwaiti government. Like people are they're angry. They're mortified by this. And again, like I was saying a few moments ago, there's nothing wrong with protesting outside an embassy. Like, they're literally doing that here as well, right? But going back to the NATO membership, I thought this was interesting because this turned from some vile, stupid act into having geopolitical ramifications with NATO membership. I that's really, really crazy. And I swear I was expecting them to like call him a Russian agent or something. You know, I think Ned Price sort of hinted at it, but you know, anyway. Also in Turkey, people were protesting. We'll see what happens. I don't think ultimately Turkey are going to block Sweden from and Finland. I think they're going to let them join. They're just trying to buy time and extract as many concessions as they possibly can. So, because you know, when Sweden and Finland originally applied, what was the response from Turkey? They immediately said, "No, we're not supporting you because of XYZ." And then Sweden like softened up, and you know, they started appeasing Turkey, and I think it's going to go back to that in the near future. I could be wrong, but I think that, like I said, just from you know, a foreign policy perspective, Ankara and Erdogan are going to want to use this and milk this Swedish and Finn NATO membership bid for as much as they can, right? So I'm not saying they're not upset. They're obviously very upset. It's I just don't see the point in it. In this kind of vile behavior. It's nothing to do with Turkey. Like what the hell does Turkey have to do with Islam anyway? I mean, obviously it's a Muslim majority country, but like what does that have to do with criticizing Turkey? Someone please explain this to me, because you're just trying to piss off Muslims. You're not doing anything that's like protesting Turkish occupation in Syria or Turkish the genocide of Armenians. Like what Turkish government policy or foreign policy are you protesting exactly? It's literally completely unrelated. Okay. Let me show you the next segment that we're on to. Okay, I just want to say that we have 1,600 people watching, so thank you guys very much. And again, please hit the like button. We've got 900 likes, so there's about 500 of you that still have not pressed the like button or the thumbs up, so please do. And thank you to everybody who's watching on Rockfin as well, and other platforms. So let's take a look at Biden. Okay, I wanted to talk about this a few weeks ago already. I wanted to talk about this a few weeks ago, but I don't know if it was still relevant, and now it's back in the news. So let's just go through it, okay? Because I think it's incredible, like the way that this is going, okay? So okay. Oh, sorry. Just before I continue, I just wanted to read out some of the super chats you guys sent. We've got one on Rockfin from Stacy. So thank you very much, Stacy. I don't see a note particularly, but thank you very much. And we've also got something on PayPal. It's loading. 1 second. This from Jane. Jane says, "Keep up the good work." Thank you, Jane. I appreciate that very much. Let me also look on YouTube Studio because I missed some of them. Just a second. Yeah, we got one here from Crazy Puppet again. Crazy Puppet said, "The current situation is like embers next to a stockpile of hyper flammable material. Let's hope there is no wind or we will see an actual war. Loss of life will be measured in thousands. Flow is smooth." And Crazy Puppet also said that meanwhile in Ukraine, there's forced mobilization of non-Ukrainian ethnic citizens observed. Clearly, they are about to use human wall tactics. I mean, let me just say something. Have you guys been keeping up with this corruption scandal in Ukraine? Because I thought we should also cover that. I was going to do a thing about that in a bit, but just going back to what Crazy Puppet was saying, yeah, I think that's a pretty apt description in terms of having these embers next to flammable material. This is not. Every time they send more things to Ukraine, it's like they're testing the waters. They're trying to see like how much can we do? How much are the Russians going to take? And I know. Let me say this. I know there are people who are going to say, well, look, if the Russians didn't want German tanks coming at them again, they shouldn't have invaded Ukraine. All right, well, since you want to do this, let me put this to you. If you're going to look at it that way, the whole point of German reunification, why the Russians supported that, was that it was sort of established that, okay, Germany is now neutered. We are not going to have another world war. Germany is not going to kill another 27 million Russians or Soviets. And that this has to be resolved diplomatically. But in addition, this must be made clear that NATO does not expand, because that's not what we agreed on, and we, the West, with the Russians, and that's again established by numerous documents. So you could also say, well, why did NATO expand to include all of these East Bloc countries? Was that not provocation as well to the Russians? Why did NATO double its membership? What was NATO doing in Libya? What was NATO doing in Syria? What was NATO doing in Afghanistan? You don't think the Russians looked at that and saw that as a threat? So you can't leave that out of the equation. And again, no matter the context, Germany was supposed to be demilitarized so they don't do shit like this, right? And here we are, 80 years later, and we're in the same goddamn situation, except this time we are arming Nazis. Well, at least some of them are Nazis, and that's already bad enough, against the Russians. I mean, when are these politicians going to learn? Like, diplomacy works. This crap does not. And in the end, you have to sit down and fix it that way. So this is just asking for trouble, really. This is just asking for trouble. Ah, man. Okay, so there are some more super chats here from Crazy Puppet. Said, read this. Z or Zed. I got infected by the Americans. I say Z now. God. Tish, thank you for the super chat. Tish said, remember what Pompeo said this past June? Quote, no matter the consequences, unquote, to control global resources. Oh, I remember everything Pompeo says, fortunately. Yeah. Again, it's the Russian game right now is it's not just about the resources. It's the West feeling threatened by BRICS, by a world where the dollar is not the reserve currency, where the United States is not the world's creditor. That's what they're scared of, and going at the Russians, having a go at the Russians is also a way to kind of cripple BRICS. It's at least a favorable side effect for them. And Bella also sent something. I can't read the sticker, but thank you. Okay, it says you are amazing. Well, thank you. You're very kind. And Crazy Puppet says, thank you, Germany. This will expedite the denazification. Should have heard the Russian people's stance on German tanks, again being on Russian soil. Yars are on active rotation right now, hopefully with non-nuclear arsenal. Yeah, I mean, it's shocking because you kind of, you kind of expect the warmongering, but it's still shocking to see the West, and when I say the West, I'm speaking specifically the UK and the US, like actively cheering on arming Germany. What the fuck? Like this is insane. Can you imagine going back like a couple decades or back to World War II and telling your grandparents that, oh, in the future actually we're going to be giving weapons to the Germans and helping them rearm so they can fight Russians. And by the way, there's a tiny percentage of those Ukrainians who are actually Nazis, but don't worry about it. I mean, I think half of them would just give up. Like, what's the fucking point of fighting this war? You're just going to do the same crap in 80 years. Man, it's depressing, really. Crazy Puppet also said that the Russian general consensus that if it can't be avoided, then make sure the other side suffers as well. There's a huge rise in patriotism over there, maybe due to federal subsidies for those who go to denazify. Well, I don't know what the final figure was in terms of young men who are leaving Russia because of the mobilization, but that's something that they I mean, it's definitely important, right? It's definitely important. I heard like between 500,000 and 1 million. I don't know how many men left. I don't think we'll have the real number, but I personally know someone who did. Again, I don't want to say too much, but the Russians were looking specifically for people who had experience in the armed forces, and he did, right? So it's not like he was afraid of being in the army. He'd done his duty, but he didn't want to be in a war in this stuff. So I get it. But at the same time, I just want to go back to what you were saying with rise of patriotism. I'm sure there is, because now let me say something. When the Germans are sending tanks and the US and the UK are sending tanks, it becomes very easy, and it's frankly it's the truth, to inside of Russia say, look, they're trying to corner us, they're singling us out. We've got German tanks coming at us again, like in World War II, or they also, you can talk about the first patriotic war, as they call it in Russia. So yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to have a rise of patriotism because people are going to feel threatened by that. And again, the solution is not more tanks, and maybe in a few months they're going to say, let's send them fucking nuclear submarines. Although I don't know how they use those now, maybe except to blow up a few more parts of Nord Stream 2. But this is not improving anything. You ask someone who supports arming Ukraine to show you one gain that this has brought. Just one. Are the Russians out of Ukraine? No. Did the grain deal or any of these humanitarian corridors, these gains, did they come from anything done militarily? No. Has the situation globally in terms of food supply, the deindustrialization of Europe, has that improved? No. So this strategy doesn't work. Even if you believe in it, it sucks. So, you're better off leaning towards diplomacy. In any case, let me move on to the next topic. So, okay. So there's this very interesting story that's been developing about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, having classified documents in their possession. And now Mike Pence, by the way, he's the latest, 2 hours ago. So this is very interesting because for a couple of months we've been hearing about, Donald Trump is, he's a threat to national security. He's been hoarding all of these classified documents in Mar-a-Lago. He refuses to cooperate with the National Archives. He refuses to hand over documents. I think he handed over about 20 or something, but he has 300 allegedly. And I mean, that didn't surprise me that he took them with him. Yeah, most presidents do, actually. It's quite common. But this obviously became an issue because Biden, they discovered that he also has classified documents from when he was vice president. Okay, so this became very embarrassing, and especially at a time when they're trying to make it look like it's Trump who's endangering national security and so on. And look, I mean, I'm not defending either one of them. I just want to show you the hypocrisy when it comes to the Espionage Act and classification, because anyone who tells you that there isn't over-classification in Washington, D.C. is a fool. They classify anything. I think it's honestly, it comes down to lazy bureaucrats. It's just much easier to stamp it as classified, and that's it, right? But let's talk about the possession of these documents, because their main point is that, well, look, when Trump was discovered to have these documents, he refused to cooperate. But when Biden discovered that he has these documents in his possession, he immediately turned himself in. I mean, his lawyers went to the DOJ and so on. So that's the key difference, right? Like, Biden wants to cooperate and he's forthcoming and honest, and Donald Trump is not. Okay, neither of them are forthcoming and honest, so please stop this nonsense. But I want to walk you through this article from The Intercept, which is pretty good, and it has the timeline here. Okay, so let's go through this, and then we'll relate it back to right. So on November 2nd, 2022, a week before the high-stakes midterm elections, lawyers for Joe Biden discovered some forbidden fruit inside a seldom-used office in a think tank bearing the same name of the 46th president. The lawyers were there to close down the office at the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement, which Biden inaugurated in 2018 following his 8 years as vice president. So according to his legal team, while they were packing up Biden's papers and his other items, the lawyers found a batch of what appeared to be classified materials inside a locked closet in Biden's office suite. So Biden's team, according to their own account, swiftly reported the matter to the National Archives and offered full cooperation in determining how the documents arrived at the unsecured facility. The president claimed he was unaware of the documents and had no knowledge of how they came to be there. Quote, I was briefed about the discovery and surprised to learn that there weren't any government records that were taken there to that office, but I don't know what's in the documents either. So November 9th, a day after the congressional elections, the Justice Department and the FBI began an initial assessment of the matter, and a few days later, on November 14th, Attorney General Merrick Garland assigned a U.S. attorney to initiate a preliminary investigation. The timing of this discovery, both in the immediate political sense and the broader historical sense, could not have been worse for Biden. The president's team did not inform the public about the classified documents once they were discovered. They did not inform the public that the FBI and the Justice Department had launched an investigation into the sitting president on a potentially serious matter involving classified materials taken to an unsecured facility and remained there for years. The president and his advisors knew very well the political tripwire they had crossed and the implications it could have, not just on the midterm elections, but also on the case against his predecessor, so that's Donald Trump, for the very same issue. So Biden's team kept it all secret, and we may never know for how long they intended to do that. The White House, this is from the Washington Post, quote, the White House was hoping for a speedy inquiry that would find no intentional mishandling of the documents and planned to disclose the matter only after Justice issued its all clear. So here, as they say in The Intercept, it is not uncommon for presidents to violate the Presidential Records Act. And they make the case that, you know, Trump's refusal to hand over the documents that he took is what is unusual, right? So they say the documents initially recovered from Trump, they included materials from the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and other agencies reportedly. And in August, the FBI executed a search warrant and seized dozens of boxes of additional materials from Trump's Florida state. Again, I was so sick of hearing this, you know, oh my God, you know, federal prosecutors, FBI agents, they've seized boxes. Like, they're trying to make it out to be like Trump had some kind of fucking, you know, secret underground library in his resort. And it's so funny because when Biden is caught doing the same thing in the same period, I mean, what are the chances of that, right? They have a completely different, you know, they start singing a completely different tune, right? Very, very funny. And the way Biden talks about it, I mean, please just let me show you how he speaks about this, okay? Like what his reaction is to journalists ask him.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, okay. Classified material next to your Corvette. What were you thinking?
Let me, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
Oh, okay. You guys heard that? It's in a locked garage. No need to worry. Chill out.
But at any rate, yes, as well as my Corvette.
Shit, man.
But as I said,
why didn't I think of that? Maybe, you know, if Chelsea Manning had told the you know, the tribunal at her court martial that you know, he put the documents that she gave to WikiLeaks next to her Corvette in her locked garage, she wouldn't have had to go to jail. Maybe Snowden should have thought of that, right? Maybe when he was in Hong Kong, he should have just called them and said, look, guys, documents are next to my Corvette in my locked garage, so don't worry. It's not like they were out on the street.
Said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review. As part of that process, my lawyers reviewed other places where documents in my, from my time as vice president were stored, and they finished the review last night. They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas and file cabinets in my home and my personal library. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn Center. The Department of Justice was immediately, as was.
Yeah, okay, you get the picture. They were next to his Corvette. That's all you need to know. Look at his press secretary, okay, trying to handle this. Take a look.
The president takes this very seriously. He does. He said this twice. And he did not know that the records were there when they were found. He does not know what's in them. And what he did and what his team did is the minute that they realized that the documents were there, they reached out to the archives, they reached out to the Department of Justice. And again, he was surprised that these records have been found. He does not know what's in them. And his team, once they identified that these documents were there, they immediately reached out to the archives, to the Department of Justice, and rightfully so, did the right thing by turning that over. And they have been cooperating very closely with the Department of Justice. He said, we are confident that their thorough review will show that these documents were in.
All right, there's only so much verbal diarrhea that I can take, okay? And you you get the idea. This is very funny because the National Archives, right? They issued a statement. This is October 2022, a few months ago, right? And they said that the National Archives and Records Administration, in accordance with the Presidential Records Act, assumed physical and legal custody of the presidential records from the administrations of Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. H. Bush, George H.W. Bush, and Ronald Reagan. Sorry, I get my war criminals mixed up sometimes. When those presidents left office. That's a lie, okay? Because literally the next month, they're finding documents from the Barack Obama administration, of which Joe Biden was a part of. He was the vice president. In Joe Biden's his office where he was professor, and then later at his home. And so they're, like I said, they're claiming Biden was forthcoming. No, they were specifically trying to hide this, deliberately hide this from the public. And then when it was out in the press that, okay, well, they found documents at his office, they tried to keep quiet that there were documents at his home. And then that also came out. And so, they grilled her. Jean-Karine Pierre, right, the press secretary, they grilled her about that. Like, you were just telling us 2 days ago that there are no more documents and that's it. And now you found other documents. So yeah, just going back, let's go back quickly to this Intercept article. Okay, so they talk about they talk about basically how there's overclassification, where things that are not really related to national security that shouldn't be secret are simply marked secret because it's convenient for bureaucrats and also for presidents and politicians who want to hide secrets, right? There might be something embarrassing and they don't want people to find out, so just classify it. Which again is not, that is not what meets the threshold for classification as top secret. It has to be something relating to national security. And this has been going on for years. This is not Joe Biden and Donald Trump who started this. This is many, many, many decades ago, right? It started taking this approach. So let me show you over here. This is the article at The Intercept. They say, while it is plausible that Biden is being honest when he says that he had no knowledge of the documents being at his think tank office, the administration knowingly left out crucial details, including the garage documents, and only came clean when journalists exposed new documents or were on the verge of doing so. That's what I told you a few moments ago. And now here we come to overclassification, right? So, there's a very a poignant quote here from the ACLU, right? American Civil Liberties Union. And so, quote, the entire classification regime is a joke. My hope is that liberals do not adopt the line that the classified documents in Biden's garage, even though we don't know what they are harmless. And the classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, even though we don't know what they are either, are a grave threat to the nation. The overwhelming likelihood is that neither breach is likely to harm much of anything. And I guess this is a good point, right? Remember that Trump was president, and if he wanted to harm the U.S. and give information to adversaries, he could have done that every day for 4 years. Again, I like and dislike this sentence for a couple of reasons. I like it because it's very sane and logical, but I don't like it because it starts, it's kind of bringing up this, Trump is a Russian agent. Look, man, you have so many things that you can criticize about Trump that are very, like, you know, just disgusting and evil. I mean, pardoning those Blackwater mercenaries is one of them. You know, just basically bending over backwards to please Israel, prosecuting Assange. There's so many reasons, but they don't do that. They're more interested in this fantasy. Oh, Russia. Dude, no one cares about this. It's not real. But on the topic of giving information to adversaries, or I mean, it doesn't matter. Even if you give information to allies, you're still going to get in trouble because you're not allowed to do that, depending on the document. I'll just give you an example because they're acting like it's only Trump who could have done that. No, it's not. It could have been Trump and Biden as well. Remember, Biden's son was you know, pimping out his father's position when he was vice president. So, you know, these documents relate to that era. And I'm not saying that these documents have anything to do with Hunter Biden's business. I'm just saying that the possibility of Biden or Trump giving documents, whether it's for business or you know, any other reason, it's equally possible with both. It doesn't have to be only Trump. It could be both. You don't know. And it, you know, in terms of corruption, I mean, Trump is corrupt as hell. He's corrupt as hell. And you guys remember how he was trying to make people stay at his resorts, whether it's Secret Service or, you know, having them go through his, what was this refueling story in Scotland? You remember at his resort there, so that, you know, basically the government would be paying him, you know, for using his hotels and his services. That's corruption, you know, and having foreign dignitaries stay at the Trump Towers. That's corruption. But Biden's also corrupt, all right? And he's been in DC way longer, so he probably knows how to hide it better. I don't know. And his son's corrupt too. So again, you know, this is equally possible. Here's a quote from Obama. Okay, so he told Fox News in April 2016 that, quote, "There's stuff that is really top secret, and there's stuff that is being presented to the president or the Secretary of State that you might not want on the transom or going out over the wire, but is basically stuff that you could get in open." Okay. And then here we have Justice Potter Stewart. So this relates to the Pentagon Papers case 1971. Sorry, this is Jaffer who's citing the observation made by Justice Potter. So, quote, "When everything is classified, then nothing is classified." Okay. And given the number of classified secrets and the number of people who have access to those secrets, it's just practically impossible for the national security bureaucracy to keep track of them. And once again, this relates to how those documents could, you know, they might as well be toilet paper because you can stamp anything you like as classified, especially as president. Now, here we get to the most important point. This is the crux of the issue, because I'm trying to show you how these guys are hypocrites. You know, Democrats, Republicans, Biden, Trump, they're hypocrites. They're doing the same thing, and presidents before them done the same thing. They steal these documents. But the more important point is that there's a double standard in how whistleblowers and journalists are treated under the same laws. Okay, so you guys know the Espionage Act. This is from 1917, and it's you know, I mean, it's never really been about spies. I know it was done during World War I, and it claims to be about dealing with spies. But if you look at the tally, I mean, in the end, you've had this Espionage Act used against more people who are not spies than you know, than people who are, because it's a political tool. It's about jailing people you don't like, right? So, as The Intercept you know, eloquently point out, in the case of whistleblowers charged under the Espionage Act, the accused are not even permitted to explain their motive for leaking or publishing classified materials that expose government abuses or crimes. That's true. That is true. Okay, so you saw Joe Biden's press secretary saying, well, he doesn't know what's in the documents, and, you know, there's probably nothing in there. It doesn't matter. That you're not allowed to even defend yourself in an Espionage Act trial. You know, and that's I think that's been the case. We were just talking about Pentagon Papers, 1971. Since then, right? So I remember Ellsberg saying in court that ever since he was put on trial, no one who's ever been charged with the Espionage Act since his trial was allowed a public interest defense. It doesn't exist. You have to shut the fuck up, and that's it. There's no excuse why you leaked it. There's no excuse for you to publish these documents. Not allowed. So these cases are relegated to a technical yes or no question about mishandling classified intelligence. And the criminal sentences have been extreme. So reality winner, 5.5 years in 2018. Daniel Hale, 45-month sentence last year in now it's 2021, so 2 years ago. And both of them, reality winner and Daniel Hale, were prosecuted under the Espionage Act. Down here, they also talk about how, Bill Clinton's former national security advisor, Sandy Berger, and CIA director Petraeus, they've both done the same thing. So Berger stole documents from the National Archives in 2003 by stuffing them inside his clothing and then destroyed some classified materials. So he was, he pretended he needed them for testimony. And then when it comes to Petraeus, he was forced to resign as CIA director in 2012 after it was revealed he had improperly handled classified materials, including taking some to his home and sharing them with his biographer. So when it comes to Berger, who stuffed them in his coat and burned them, he was fined $50,000 and lost his security clearance, and Petraeus got 2 years probation and a $100,000 fine. I mean, yes, that's a lot of money, but for those people, it's pocket change. And the point is that they didn't face any jail time for doing things that are fucking insane. I mean, like, just stuffing documents in your coat and burning them, or taking them home with you, dude. I mean, that's actually a security risk, and it's also corrupt. Edward Snowden blowing the whistle on NSA mass surveillance, that is a necessary it's a necessary good in a democracy, or a purported democracy, and it was in the public interest. So you got every reason to defend that, to okay that, and he's basically chased out of the U.S. Of course, he left there willingly, but they canceled his passport. He can't come home because he won't get a fair trial. So yeah, he's basically exiled. And look at the contrast. You see how stark it is. So if you mishandle classified information for the good of the public, they'll ruin your life and your family's life. But if you do it for personal gain and you're the CIA director, you'll get a little slap on the wrist. Don't worry about it. Both Biden and Trump have advocated harsh criminal penalties for leakers and whistleblowers. In Biden's case, he spent decades as a U.S. Senator trying to strengthen laws governing improper disclosures of classified information. As vice president under Obama, he was part of an administration that prosecuted more whistleblowers under the Espionage Act than all administrations in history combined. As president, he has continued this trend, including through prosecuting Hale, refusing to pardon reality winner, and continuing the Trump-era effort to extradite WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Again, Julian Assange is not just a WikiLeaks founder, he's a journalist. So very important to underline that he's a journalist and publisher, because Julian Assange never mishandled classified documents. He's not an American citizen. He didn't work for the U.S. government in any capacity. He is not bound by any agreement. So it literally does not concern him. That's like saying, I mean, again, I've drawn this example. Like, how do you think the U.S. would react if, I don't know, Saudi Arabia wanted to snatch some American who lives in China for writing nasty things about MBS? They'd lose it, right? So I think it's disgusting, this double standard. They use the Espionage Act just to ruin people's lives for doing good things, and then for corruption, for personal gain, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, slap on the wrist. That was my main point, and I think it's good to underline this, because yes, that there's a large portion of the media that are outraged about Trump, and then they give Biden a pass. Yeah, and it's the other way around. You have some that are outraged about Biden and give Trump a pass. Fine, that's not the main point here. The point is that when you mishandle classified information, to do whistleblowing, to tell the public about something that is in their interest, that you have every reason to, even to tell the public about a government crime. So you're informing them about something illegal and criminal that's being done at the government level, which they have a right to know and which should be halted. You get in trouble. But these people, they don't get in trouble. So you see, again, you got a 2 or 3 tier justice system, you know? It's really what it comes down to. And these guys, they really put the criminal in criminal justice system. What a great defense. I put them next to my Corvette. That's hilarious. You're funny, man. Okay, so we give me a second. We got some more donations here that I missed on PayPal, so give me a second. Here it's from Janet. Thank you very much. Janet says, I learn more about everything from you than any other journalist. You are just amazing. Thank you for your hard work. I'm humbled by your kind words. Thank you very much, Janet. And we've got another one here from, this is from Joanne. Says, greetings from Tennessee. So happy to see you're back. How can I get signed up for your newsletter in case YouTube kicks you off? God forbid, but it's a good question. So basically, I'll pull it up on the screen. It's RichardMedhurst.substack.com. Okay, so every time I go live, I send you guys an email through Substack, and I also put all my published works. All my written articles are on here, so I'm pulling up on the screen. And there you go. You can see that's the stream right now. So it's free to sign up. Doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to put your name. You just put any email address you like, and you'll get notified. And yeah, I mean, people can support on Substack. I appreciate that. But again, this is good to have a backup. So I appreciate you asking, Joanne. And again, the link is in the chat. It's RichardMedhurst.substack.com. And I'm sure Claudia has been very kind enough to put it there. So thank you. Margot, thank you for the super chat. Margot says, just very happy that you're back and sincerely hope you had a good break. Thank you. You're very kind. And it's good to be back with you guys. You know, I couldn't stand missing so much of World War III, so I had to get back into Oh man, we have to make light of this because it's depressing. But thank you very much for coming. And we also got we have a new member on Patreon. So again, thank you to everybody who's supporting on Patreon. Please put your hands together for Jack. Jack has just signed up to support the show, so I'm going to play a crab dance for Jack right now. And if you want to support the show on PayPal or Patreon or whatever, please, Claudia has put the links in the chat. Thank you very much. And let's give him
clap for that, you stupid bastard. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انت كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro, and then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9. Number 9 Lord.
We got him.
I told myself, I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Disgusting!
Why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you!
I am once again asking for your financial support.
A is for
All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
B is for
I'm beginning to see why your wife left you.
C is for
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
D is for
Don't worry, I'm so serious. Children, I love to hear them.
E is for
An excuse to walk by the dealer and say, no, I'm not going to be a mule. I got something to do. I got to go do boom, boom, boom.
F is for
Time friend, and she's a friend. She's been my friend in and out of public life.
G is for
Go to Joe 30330.
H is for
Hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down.
I is for
I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate.
J is for
Just look at the record.
I have President Biden, Vice President Biden.
Well, I tell you what, if you look at my record and you still doubt about my commitment, then you should vote for somebody else.
K is for
Kids jumping on my lap, and I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
L is for
The lion, dog, face, pony soldier.
M is for
Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear work.
N is for
NATO.
O is for
The only African American woman that's ever been elected to the United States Senate.
P is for
We're back, baby. Let me read some of your nice comments. We have a super chat from Gordon. Gordon says, gonna have to add, America can be summed up one word. I can't read it. I can't read it, but I get the. Okay. Again, I got some more things to tell you in relation. Bricks and so on, but just let me plug the show before I continue. So again, we have PayPal, CashApp, Venmo, Bitcoin, Ethereum. We're on Rockfin, Substack, and YouTube, of course. So there's a multitude of ways you can donate if you like my work and you want to support independent journalism. You know, people donate as little as $1 to whatever, and it can be a one-time donation or monthly. All of it helps, and I appreciate all of it. So thank you guys very, very, very much. And Claudia is very kind. She's left all of the links in the chat, and she did an amazing thumbnail. I mean, as usual, but particularly last time and today. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you also to Orlando for the super chat, and Marvin says, have John Mark Dugan, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, on your show. He now lives in Russia and knows about Donbass. You're great. I'll have to look him up. Thanks for the tip. And you guys keep sending me suggestions for guests, right? Because I do put them. I do try to reach out to them and have them on, especially when we've got, you know, Ukraine being such a big issue right now. So thank you. And we also have actually I'm drowning in them. Thank you, Basil. Basil says Eisenhower warned of the military-industrial complex, and Kennedy got the memo in Dallas. Yep. Yeah. So I'm assuming most of you know what Basil is referring to. But basically, this is, you know, there's a famous speech that Eisenhower gave, and you know, he warns about what is called the MIC, or the military-industrial complex. So this is the relationship between, you know, whatever you want to call it, the deep state, the intelligence agencies, the same crap, and the government and the arms manufacturer, right? Because there's basically, you know, a revolving door. You got people who work in, you know, the military, who are career officers, who then leave the military and they go and work for the arms manufacturers, right? So the guys who build bombs and profit off of war. And, you know, inversely, you also have people from the arms industry who then come, I mean, I don't need to say infiltrate, because they do it out in the open, right? But they basically lobby people in government, and they lobby you know, people in the military, and they're in the government itself. I mean, if you look at Dick Cheney, he was the vice president, and he was CEO of Halliburton, right? They made boatloads of money, stinking rich off of Afghanistan, Iraq. So, when I say infiltrate, it's right there out in the open. And the defense secretary right now, Lloyd Austin, I mean, he was in the military, and then he went to Raytheon, and then back from Raytheon to defense secretary. So, again, you want to talk about a conflict of interest. That's what it is. Military industrial complex is just kind of the term that Eisenhower used, and it's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. So you should always be, careful, exercise caution when it comes to foreign policy in the U.S. because you have people whose job it is to just make money from wars. So I told you just earlier that when the United States is going to send tanks to Ukraine, yes, Germany put them in an uncomfortable position because the United States is the one that wants to be calling the shots. They don't want Germany telling them what to do, imposing conditions. But at the same time, someone's going to make money because those 30 Abrams tanks that are being sent to Ukraine, they got to be replaced. And the same goes for Germany, by the way. They're also sending tanks with their own stockpile. Germany also has an arms industry, right? It's still there. Oh, yeah. And they make money off of the war in Yemen. And those 14 Leopard tanks that they're sending got to be replaced because they come from the army stockpile. Okay. And Poland as well. I'm assuming at one point or another they're gonna replenish their stock of Leopard tanks because they're also sending around 14, I believe. But the Challenger 2s also from Poland. Okay, also got to be replenished. BAE Systems. I'm not saying in regards to the Challenger, but generally speaking, you have a huge companies in Britain who again are part of the military industrial complex a long time. BAE Systems is one of the bigger companies. Enfield to make the rifles since before World War One. That was the main British rifle for decades and decades. People still use it today. And they make the new LH, the submachine gun. So, they're still in business. Rolls-Royce used to make the Merlin engines that they would put in the bombers. Actually, they still use Merlin engines even in civilian aircraft. They're good. But all these companies, they have their hand in the cookie jar. They're all taking a piece of the pie when it comes to war, and it's not just in the U.S., it's in Europe as well. So let me go to the next segment. So this is just wanted to give you a short update on this. So you guys know one of the major consequences of the Ukraine war has been not just the deindustrialization of Europe, but the de-dollarization and shift away from the U.S. Monetary and finance system towards something new. And when we say new, we're talking specifically about the BRICS. So this is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and it's become so good and successful that other countries, including countries that are traditionally U.S. allies like Saudi Arabia, are shifting away from Washington and they're looking towards the east. And Saudi Arabia has no problem discussing oil sales with the Chinese in currencies other than the dollar, which is a threat, the U.S. dollar, because it's backed by oil sales being exclusively denominated in greenback. And then, of course, you have things like Venezuela and Iran and Turkey adopting this Russian Mir system, and then Russia linking its payment system with the Chinese Union Pay. So you have a whole, literally a whole world emerging. And one of those things, I just wanted to show you the latest update in terms of BRICS. So you guys know Lula da Silva, he just won the presidential election in Brazil. He's back. This is his second non-consecutive term as president, and he's going on a trip, of South America. And Look at what he said when he was in Argentina. So this is from Reuters, okay? Lula floats shared trading currency during Argentina trip. So Brazil and Argentina are in early talks to establish a shared unit of value for bilateral trade to reduce reliance on the US dollar. President Lula da Silva said on Monday, though the move is not aimed at replacing existing currency. Yeah, I know why he said that, because he doesn't want to get Gaddafi'd. So in Buenos Aires, on his first international visit since taking office, Lula made the comments alongside Argentine President Alberto Fernandez, a leftist ally who said there was little decided about what would be involved in such. So, I mean, just to kind of summarize, I'll read this quote to you first. So our finance ministers, each with their own economic team, can make us a proposal for foreign trade and transactions between the two countries that is done in a common currency. Okay? And they also discussed shipping gas from Argentina to Brazil, and Brazil having their banks finance the building of a pipeline to deliver this gas. Okay, so it's not just about the currency; it's also infrastructure. And the thing is, they're not trying to make this something like the euro. It's the point is not to have a single unifying currency. They're trying to make this more something that is more focused on trade. But again, that's huge, because when we're talking about trade, we're talking about absolutely enormous sums of wealth and money being transferred, right? So, yeah, it's very significant. Let me show you also, just quickly. This is from their joint meeting. Okay.
We don't know how a common currency between Argentina and Brazil could work, but what we do know is how economies work when they depend on foreign currencies to be able to trade. We know how harmful all that is.
Lula aims to make Brazil...
Right, so that was from their joint press conference, and I just wanted to highlight this, because there's this, idea they keep floating in the media that, well, ever since the war in Ukraine started, Russia's isolated, and it's basically on its own. And it's just not true, because Brazil has been part of the BRICS since forever. And when the war started, you had all of the ambassadors from Brazil, from India, from China, from South Africa in Moscow. So clearly, the most important allies that the Russians have, they're not going to put sanctions on Moscow. They're not going to cut ties with Moscow. And just last week, South Africa, again, one of the BRICS, they were holding military drills off of the coast of South Africa with who? With Russia and China. And you have Lula, who not just with Argentina, but just globally, broadly speaking, is saying we need to expand BRICS. We need to include more countries. We need to push this agenda forward. and I'm just thinking of the reaction in Washington, because they, this is, if you're in Washington, this is the worst thing. This is very bad, because you need to monopolize, you need to have the dollar monopolizing the planet, in terms of the U.S. being the world creditor, the U.S. being the world's reserve currency, right? And if you look at the trend in the last couple of months, pound, the euro, all currencies have gone down against the dollar. So although people are suffering from sanctions blowback in the West, America, the U.S. is still coming out, is still emerging with some small victories, because all of these European companies are going to go to the U.S. The dollar is getting stronger against other currencies. So they're still gaining from it in one sense. But this is another threat that they have to contend with. And I think the Ukraine war is actually, it's basically speeding this up. Not just in terms of Brazil, but I'm speaking generally, right? You're basically seeing this process of de-dollarization, of shift towards the east, happening on an expedited scale, on a much faster scale. So that's why it's so important. And I'll show you here also from South Africa, right? So this is from January 18th. The BRICS are mulling a new payment system to ditch dollar control, the same theme as we just saw with Brazil and Argentina, right? So the South Africa's foreign minister, Dore, said that the BRICS club of emerging economies have to find a way of bypassing the US dollar to create a fairer payment system that won't be skewed towards wealthy countries. So he said that, quote, "We have always been concerned by the fact that there is a dominance of the US dollar and that we need to look at an alternative. The systems currently in place tend to privilege very wealthy countries and tend to be really a challenge for countries such as ourselves, which have to make payments in US dollars, which cost much more in terms of our various currency. So I do think a fair system has to be developed, and it's something that we're discussing with the BRICS ministers in the economic sector discussion." So again, this is very, very important. And he makes an excellent point about, making payments in dollars. And, the thing is, one of the arms of this machine is, of course, the World Bank and the IMF, because what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll pretend they're saving a country by giving them dollars and, bailing them out of whatever crisis they're experiencing. And it's like, they're like loan sharks, basically. We'll give you some money now, but later on you have to pay us back in dollars and you have to do what we tell you politically, right? So you have to, if you don't pay us back on time, we're going to impose these political conditions on you. And when you need more money, again, we're going to come and impose even stricter and tighter conditions on you. So you end up with countries who have this huge debt over their heads. They can't pay back the IMF, and the IMF is now demanding even more concessions for them to bail them out of the first crisis that they were put in. It's disgusting. It's really disgusting. And the sanctions regime is another arm of this, of Uncle Sam, I guess, because the United States is able to use the dollar to isolate countries, right? Because when they put sanctions on someone, all the other countries, they can't deal with this. Let's take Russia as an example, right? No one wants to deal with Russia in the West because they're afraid of being punished themselves by the United States. And they need the dollar, and they need to work with US banks. And they have headquarters or offices in the US. And so the United States is leveraging that position to punish countries, whether they deserve it or not is irrelevant, because they're not the world police, but they pretend to be. And they always use the dollar against other people. So it's kind of a sick catch-22. You want to use the dollar because it gives you access to global markets, it gives you access to other resources, you can do business internationally, but then the United States can just shit on you whenever they like and isolate you and leverage your use of their currency against you. So people are getting sick of that, especially when they're the ones helping to prop it up, like the Saudis. Their sale of oil only in dollars is what gives the U.S. its prestige and the dollar its value, especially since the 70s, right? I'll show you a bit more from this article. So the Foreign Minister of South Africa, Dore, he went on to say that one of the reasons why BRICS established the jointly run New Development Bank, so NDB for short, in 2014 was to develop an alternative to the dollar-based payment system. And of course, 2014 is a key year because of Ukraine also and Crimea, and that's the year when the Russians and the Chinese started developing their alternatives to SWIFT, which is basically the it connects all of the banks worldwide, right? So we're talking thousands of banks in 200 countries, and it doesn't actually move money. It's just a communication system that is used worldwide. It's the most popular one. But because they banned Iran from SWIFT, the Americans basically banned Iran from SWIFT, and then Russia started seeing that, okay, because of the sanctions, it's time to develop our own thing, and the Chinese felt the same way. So since 2014, they've been doing their own payment systems and their own alternative to SWIFT. So this is from the advisor to Iran's supreme leader in international affairs, Velayati. He said that, quote, China and Russia, being the two main members of the BRICS, which also include India, South Africa, Brazil, are carrying out many transactions with each other without the use of foreign currency, meaning the US dollar especially. The fact that they are not tied to the dollar, which depends on the United States' will, is very good progress. Yeah, so, it's... obviously, this feels like a threat to the Treasury and to the United States, but for other countries, this means freedom and not being afraid of sanctions and being bullied and told what to do. And again, keep in mind, BRICS is just 5 countries now, but so many countries have applied to join. Argentina is one of them. We were just talking about Argentina. Iran is one of them. Even Saudi Arabia wants to join the BRICS, right? Like, talk about a break from the U.S., right? They seem to be serious about it. Let's see. But, you know, BRICS is all the rage. And Lula is trying to, you know, make BRICS bigger, but also trying to rally South American countries. And I want you to just watch this video, what he had to say about Venezuela, right? Because Venezuela has been a victim of sanctions.
Resolver o problema da Venezuela, a gente vai resolver com diálogo.
Y el problema venezolano se solucionará con diálogo.
E não com bloqueio.
Y no con bloqueos.
A gente vai resolver com diálogo.
Vamos a solucionarlo con diálogos.
E não com ameaça de ocupação.
Y no con amenazas de ocupación.
Sorry, I just gotta laugh because they sound so similar. The Spanish and Portuguese. I speak French, so I can actually also figure out most of the words, but this is even they're even closer.
A gente vai resolver com diálogo e não com ofensas pessoais.
Lo vamos a solucionar con diálogo y no con ofensas personales.
O Brasil vai restabelecer relações diplomáticas com a Venezuela.
Brasil va a restablecer relaciones diplomáticas con Venezuela.
Nós queremos que a Venezuela tenha embaixada no Brasil.
Queremos que Venezuela tenga embajada en
que o
Brasil.
Brasil tenha embaixada na Venezuela.
Que Brasil tenga embajada en Venezuela.
E vamos restabelecer
y restableceremos
a relação civilizada.
La relación civilizada
entre 2 estados autônomos.
Entre 2 estados
livres,
autónomos.
Independentes.
E independientes.
E posso dizer a quem fez a pergunta.
Y puedo decirle a quien hizo la pregunta.
Nós já conseguimos uma vez.
Ya lo logramos una vez.
E vamos conseguir outra vez.
Y lo vamos a lograr nuevamente.
E a Venezuela vai voltar a ser tratada normalmente.
Y Venezuela será tratada
como todos
normalmente.
Os países querem ser
como
tratados.
todos los países quieren ser tratados.
O que eu quero para o Brasil.
Lo que quiero para Brasil.
Eu quero para Venezuela.
También lo quiero para Venezuela.
Respeito.
A
minha soberania.
A mi soberanía.
E respeito à autodeterminação do meu povo.
Y respeto a la autodeterminación de mi pueblo.
Resolver o problema.
That's very good of him, because it's so easy to get up there and say, well, screw Venezuela, Maduro this, Maduro that, communist this. Oh, we need to keep sanctioning them, and we hope that people there starve to death. What kind of behavior is that? Like what kind of mentality is that? It's disgusting. So, good on him for standing up for Venezuela, because that's not an easy thing to do. Most countries in Europe, for example, they just, they blindly do what the United States tells them to do. And I'm talking in regards to Venezuela, and it's disgusting. And they try to destroy these countries because they have a lot of resources, and they don't want to let the American corporations take over everything and let Uncle Sam have his way. So, okay, does that mean Venezuela deserves to be sanctioned? Of course not. Does that mean people there shouldn't even have enough materials to go to class, pencils, or that they shouldn't have fuel or food? Of course not. That's evil. But this is the reality that the United States imposes on other countries with their sanctions. And so that's why people are getting sick of this, and they want to move to a new system. And again, I can't predict the future. I can't tell you that system is going to be better than the dollar, or it's going to be perfect. But this current system, this is it's untenable, even for the United States, itself, because the Federal Reserve, that's its own beast that we're going to tackle at another time. And I'm sure some of you already know what I'm talking about. But the Federal Reserve as an institution is actually not really federal. And, this just printing dollars whenever they feel like it, starving countries whenever they feel like it. Man, I think the Ukraine war is the first time, or let's say one of the only times, that people in the West are finally grasping what sanctions do to others. Because, when it was Libya being sanctioned, or Iran, or Syria, or Iraq, they don't even know what that means. They have no clue what's going on, because the media don't tell them on purpose, right? They don't want you to know what's going on. But now, because Russia is so big, and the economies of Russia and Germany and Europe are so intertwined, that there is blowback, and Russia as one of the world's largest producers of oil, there is impact and blowback. And so people are getting like a mild fraction of what people under sanctions usually, or people on the receiving end usually, get. And it's not pretty. So once you understand that, you understand why countries want to move away and make their own system. We've got a couple of tips on Rockfin, so give me a second. I'm just gonna try and read them because it's not loading. I just have to refresh. 1 second, guys. So there we go. We got a tip here from Carl. Thank you very much, Carl. I appreciate it. And we have another one from Laura. Thank you, Laura. And have one from Mansplainer. Says, open up the phone lines, my brother. I don't have any phone lines, but maybe we should think about that. That would be funny. I like when someone calls George Galloway and he puts them in their place. George is amazing. So thank you guys very much for the donations. I appreciate that very much. And thank you to Tish. Tish says, please consider inviting Max Kaiser to discuss El Salvador's Bitcoin. Oh, that would be pretty good. I'm afraid I'm not familiar with his work, but I mean the issue alone has me intrigued. So thank you very much for the suggestion. I'm just writing that down, Tish, and I'm just checking if I missed any other ones. You guys are very kind. Tish also says, Richard chap, please add Brian Berlitic and the Duran as guests. Absolutely. I need to get the Duran on, and thanks for reminding me. Thanks for reminding me, oh boy. Let's see. Yeah, we also got. Oh, this is great. Thank you very much. We have Bella, who just joined on Patreon. Thank you very much, Bella. I appreciate your support, and I will play you a crab dance in a second. Patreon, for those of you who don't know, it's basically a website where you can support this channel. You can support my work. You do a monthly donation, but it could be any amount you like. It could be $5, it could be £1, it could be €2, and you can stop whenever you like. And you can also, I mean, some people, or I'd say most people on Patreon, they do an exclusive thing. Like, if you pay $5 a month, then you'll get this content unlocked. If you pay $10 a month, you get even more special stuff. I believe everybody should get the content that I'm making. Everybody should have access to the news and the journalism I'm doing. So it's just if you want to, it's optional. And I want everybody to be able to watch and access and hear independent journalism without any restrictions. So it's just optional. I'm just saying for those of you who can and want to support, especially with today's economy. I get it. I get it. You guys saw the video. I'm so glad it's out because I was wanting to do it for a long time about how they spiked my rent and electricity. I mean, they're thieves, man. Like, they're thieves. And again, I blame number one the foreign policy, because this was entirely preventable through a bit of diplomacy. But no, let's send some fucking tanks. Why not? Let's use all the let's use all the gas and the fuel we've got for the tanks and, all the money to build weapons. Yeah, okay, keep going. 90 seconds to midnight. Well done, fucking idiots. I promised the crab dance, Bella, so here you go.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. And Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انتوا كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
After we lied, we cheated, we stole.
China. 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 China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro, and then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s. The number 9 large.
we got him.
I told myself, I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Disgusting! Why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
There you have it. Thank you guys very much. Again, shout out to Bella, and thanks for your support. I see we got a bunch of more donations here from Marvin, Lurch, and Macarius. Thank you guys for the guest suggestions. We got Syrian Girl, Ryan Dawson's film Numic on Rumble for free, and Brian Berlitic. So again, I'm gonna write these down and check them out, and I appreciate you guys supporting the show. There's something I wanted to add before, and I completely forgot what it was now. I mean, basically, I said this earlier. I said this earlier, but I'm gonna say it again. When I saw that the Germans actually decided to start sending tanks, this meme came to mind. You know this meme. What was it from? Hey Arnold or something? And the meme says, "How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?" How many times do we have to teach you this lesson? I'm stunned. I'm actually stunned. The Germans maintained a policy of so-called neutrality, right? Or basically non-involvement. Like, we're not going to send weapons there, and we're not going to sell weapons over here because we don't want to get involved, and we don't want to start any new wars or help fuel conflicts, and we don't want to basically reassume our legacy of World War I and World War II. Well, clearly that didn't work and that didn't hold. It's a bunch of hot air. And I told you already before, because they were selling weapons to Saudi Arabia for the Saudis to use in Yemen, right? Butchering people there, and they were using a loophole. So instead of selling them directly, they would sell the arms or move them to Italy, and then from Italy to Saudi Arabia. Wow, very fucking smart. So obviously this non-involvement is a lie. And then of course, the symbolic value, the tone of Russian soldiers or Russian civilians just knowing, oh, there are German tanks coming for us again, like after they killed 27 million Russians and Soviets in World War II. Again, like, you've learned nothing. You want to do this again. Man, if I if I were Gorbachev, or if I were one of his diplomats, I would be smacking myself over the goddamn head for trusting the British and the Germans and the Americans during 2+4, during the reunification talks. So basically, Russia okayed the German reunification just to see Germany blow up its military budget. So Germany spends more than Russia now on weapons. And Germany is now sending German tanks against Russia. And NATO has not only, absorbed Germany, it's gone all the goddamn way to Russia's borders. That's a pretty crappy deal. That's a very shitty deal. I mean, what can you express? If you're one of the people who is in those talks and you were part of that, I mean, what could you feel except stupidity and regret? And I'm not saying it's their fault. They didn't lie about anything. It's NATO who lied, and we have the documents in the National Archives to prove it. They told the Russians, we won't expand NATO. We're not going to have Poland. We're not going to have, and they took the whole Eastern Bloc. That's provocative. Doubling your NATO membership, it's provocative. You make people tense. You make people do crazy shit. You put people into a corner. It's offensive. It's not defensive. What the fuck was NATO doing in Libya, in Syria, in Afghanistan? This is not even the same fucking continent. What are you doing there? That's defensive? Nah. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. This is not okay. And once again, like I'm shocked also by the Germans. You know, like I understand they have to kiss Uncle Sam's ass and do what Washington says, but this is so weird seeing people in the Green Party, like the foreign minister, Annalena Baerbock. She's like, they're all bloodthirsty, right? I think in that poll I showed you from ARD, the Greens were the second highest in support of sending tanks. What the fuck? That's a Green position now? Oh my God! I what's the right wing position? If that's the Green one, what are we gonna see with right wing? I mean, this is crazy. And ironically, actually, I completely I don't understand this with you know, having more weapons ready to ship, but you know, not enough diplomacy, not enough dialogue. That's not good. That's not going to end well. And the nuclear, you know, the atomic scientists have put the doomsday clock 90 seconds to midnight. So, you know, it's symbolic. It doesn't actually mean 90 seconds, God forbid. I don't know what's going to happen next minute, but this is their way of saying we are this close to destroying ourselves and the planet from, you know, war and other problems. And 90 seconds is the closest we've ever been. What the fuck more do these people need? These, you know, people at the top, gangsters, to you know, let it sink in that this is not going to end well. You can't, you know, there's not going to be a Raytheon or a White House or, you know, a Whitehall or a BAE Systems or a fucking bank account for you to stash all your billions in if we blow each other up with nuclear weapons. It's just, there's nothing's going to be there. So what is this brilliant plan of yours? Like, okay, let me accept your premise. Putin is an asshole. Okay, so don't you want to fucking stop the war? Why don't you go sit down and talk to him? You haven't done that. You've done everything except that. Right? He's so fucking dangerous. Then rein him in. Rein him in. Rein him in. Why are you making it worse? Why are you adding fuel to the fire? Rein him in. What the fuck are you doing? Your shit doesn't work. It's been a year. Nothing. You know, helmets and then artillery and then tanks and then better tanks. So, are you winning? Did the war stop? The sanctions, they working? Clown shit. Pure clown shit. Thanks, David, for the sticker. And with that said, also Austin for the message. Thank you very much. Danke. I hope I got everybody's message. Read them out. Thank you guys very much supporting the show and even just tuning in. You know, even sharing the video or just hitting the like button is a way to support the show. You know, share the videos with your friends or your family, or, you know, try to educate people. Maybe open their eyes to stuff that they don't hear on TV, they don't hear on the media, because, you know, right now it's like basic common sense is not allowed. Having common sense is apparently you know, something that comes out of the Kremlin. Wow. Okay. You know, go back to the 1950s. That McCarthy bullshit. So anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Consider subscribing. And if you want to support the show, please do. There's PayPal, CashApp, and all of the things. I'm going to just put them in the chat. Even $1 a month helps, or just a one-time donation helps. I appreciate it very much. And again, make sure you share the videos. Put a hashtag also. I don't know if this is something, if you're on Twitter, but if you are, put the hashtag RichardMedhurst. Try to get it trending. And then more people will see the videos. I never plug my social media, so screw it. I'm just gonna plug it. This is Twitter, and see it there. That's my Twitter if you want to follow. Okay. So it's the handle is at Richie Medhurst, RICHI. You just look up Richard Medhurst on Instagram and Facebook. You'll find me there as well. If you want to watch on other platforms, because of the censorship, there's Rockfin, there's Rumble, and there's Odyssey. You guys told me to get on there, so I did it. Just to have a backup. I think on Rockfin we've got 25,000 subscribers now. You know, climbing, it's going up. I haven't checked Rumble or Odyssey because, thankfully, I think they upload the videos automatically. I don't have to do anything. I'm already drowning in work, so yeah. In any case, I'm just telling you because it's good to have alternatives. You know, to know where I am in case they do anything, God forbid. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate you very much and kind words, and hopefully some diplomatic solution instead of sending tanks. Yep, that'll be really good. We also got a new member on Patreon, so very warm thank you to Sergey. Thank you so much for the show, and here's a crab dance just for you.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. Claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انتوا كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro and then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me? Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have two number 9s. The number 9 large.
we got him.
I know it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Disgusting!
Why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
One of you in the comments, it was who said this? It was BVN. BVN said Trump doesn't say China, he says China. Exactly. And thank you, Gerald, for the donation. And we have a comment here from Monica. Monica says, to get around Sweden's law of not sending weapons to a country at war, Sweden did a similar thing during the Vietnam War, and they sent weapons to a non-warring country, and then they sold them to Vietnam, right? So that's kind of like what I was saying with Germany, Italy, and Saudi Arabia, right? They would move it to Italy and then to Saudi Arabia to get around their so-called neutral stance. Monica also says that it seems they've gotten rid of that law now, by the way. And as a former Swede, I'm disgusted with the Swedes now. I mean, I just want to say, I'm stating the obvious here, but this is very, very bad to have Germany, Sweden, Finland, even if their so-called neutral stance was not really neutral. But just to have them like so, violently and boldly, renounce it and switch to, no, we are a warring party. That's bad. It doesn't mean what they were doing before is okay. But I know I'm stating the obvious. This is just very, very bad because you're changing the, I fucking hate these corporate suit terms they use at NATO, like the security architecture of Europe. Shut the fuck up, you imperialist bitch. It changes the makeup of Europe into, once again, just shit flinging contest, and it's degrading. It's just degradation. It's the complete opposite of progress, right? It's just regressing back into the same old crap that happened centuries and centuries ago. And again, it doesn't mean Europe is supposed to be special, and no, but I'm saying that these countries who were, saying, okay, we're going to be neutral from now on, all of that has been completely, thrown out the window, and it's disgusting, really. It's so, like, if there was like a little bit of hope, they completely crushed it. And honestly, I mean, on multiple levels, even the climate action, Germany, for example, is very, very opposed to nuclear power plants and nuclear energy. And they shut them down, and they had this plan to actually, it was this year, right? Like in the last 12 months, they were supposed to shut down their nuclear power plants for good, and also move away from coal, right? And now they've completely reversed that because, someone blew up our pipeline. Actually, we canceled the pipeline, and then somebody blew it up. They listen so much to what Washington is telling them. They just shoot themselves in the foot, and their own people in the foot, and the rest of Europe in the foot. And then, all of these policies that they claim to pursue and really believe in for decades, it's just from one day to the next, it's just in the trash. Let's go back to coal. Let's go back to nuclear energy. Why not? Not like you have a choice, do you? It's so disgusting and hypocritical. And it's not just Germany. It's many, many, many Western countries who are, just making complete fools of themselves and endangering the rest of the planet. I mean, that's why most countries don't want to be part of any of this. They don't want to sanction Russia. They don't want to cut ties with Russia. They don't want to cut ties even with the West. They want to calm things down because that's the rational approach. Not, let's go send weapons. Anyway, remember this when they they vilify the Palestinians, because just try sending a Palestinian a weapon to resist and defend his country or her country from the Israelis, you will go to fucking jail. Like you will be convicted of terrorism. End of story. But if you give Ukrainians weapons, it's fine. So it's resistance and fighting an invader is fine as long as it's a State Department approved invader, right? But if you actually try to defend your country from the British or the Americans or the French or the Israelis, they will put you in a camp with a fucking hood over your head and lock you up there for who knows how many decades. Thank you guys for tuning in. And again, I appreciate your help. We have a sticker here from Ada Mama, and I appreciate that very much. And I hope I got to read all of them. So thank you guys. If I missed any, forgive me. But I think that's all of it. Appreciate everybody who signed up on Patreon. Very kind. All right, see you guys next time. Take care. Assalamu. Bye-bye. Remember to like the video and share it. Thank you.
I am once again asking for your financial support.
A is for
all men and women created by you know the thing.
B is for
I'm beginning to see why your wife left you.
C is for
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
D is for
Don't worry, I'm so serious. Children, I love to hear them.
E is for
An excuse to walk by the dealer and say, no, I'm not going to be a mule. I got something to do. I got to go do boom, boom, boom.
F is for
Friend, and she's a friend. She's been my friend in and out of public life.
G is for
Go to Joe 30330.
H is for
Hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down.
I is for
I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate.
J is for
Just look at the record.
I have President Biden, Vice President Biden.
Well, I tell you what, if you looked at my record and you still doubt about my commitment, then you should vote for somebody else.
K is for
Kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
L is for
The lion, dog, face, pony soldier.
M is for
Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear words.
N is for
NATO.
O is for
The only African American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate.
P is for
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
R is for
Rest her soul, and although she's your mom's still alive.
S is for
Send a text to the word united.
T is for
Truth over facts.
U is for
Union workers, the UAW took incredible cuts in their future.
V is for
I'll vote for somebody else.
All right, thanks so much.
W is for
Wait, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay.
X is for
Xi Jinping.
Y is for
And you ain't black.
I am once again asking for your financial support.
A is for
All men and women created by you know the thing.
B is for
I'm beginning to see why your wife left you.
C is for
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
D is for
Don't worry, I'm so serious. Children, I love to hear them.
E is for
An excuse to walk by the dealer and say, no, I'm not going to be a mule. I got something to do. I got to go do boom, boom, boom.
F is for
Time friend, and she's a friend. She's been my friend in and out of public life.
G is for
Go to Joe 30330.
H is for
Hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down.
I is for
I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate.
J is for
Just look at the record.
I have President Biden, Vice President Biden.
Well, I tell you what, if you look at my record and you still doubt about my commitment, then you should vote for somebody else.
K is for
Kids jumping on my lap, and I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
L is for
The lion, dog, face, pony soldier.
M is for
Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear words.
N is for
NATO.
O is for
The only African American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate.
P is for
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
R is for
Rest her soul, and although she's your mom's still alive.
S is for
Send a text to the word united.
T is for
Truth over facts.
U is for
Union workers.